Hey guys, tonight we slip through the moonlit corridors of the Tang Dynasty, wandering softly among lantern-lit halls where delicate perfume lingers and silk slippers barely whisper against cool stone floors. Above you, shadows dance across towering walls painted with blooming peonies, and the air is thick with hushed giggles, flickering candlelight, and the faint rustle of heavy, elaborate hairdos swaying with every graceful step. You probably won't survive this beauty routine. Your modern shampoo and go approach would stand no chance against the nightly hairpin fortress these ladies wore with nonchalant poise. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is for you. Love seeing our sleepy little community light up from all corners of the world. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You arrive outside the courtesans' quarters just as the moon hangs low and full, its silver light painting the courtyard in cool, sleepy blues. Courtesans glide past you, hair piled high like quiet monuments, each step causing slender, jeweled hairpins to sway gently, catching the moonlight. Some wear elaborate headdresses so wide they'd barely clear your average doorframe, and yet they move with serene precision, as if balancing a delicate world atop their heads is the most natural thing in the world. Your eyes travel up from shimmering silk robes to these intricate towers of hair. Some styles rise like miniature mountains of loops and buns, while others fan out like the wings of a sleeping crane. Historians still argue whether the most extreme hairdos were daily wear or reserved for only the grandest court events. But what's clear is that towering hairstyles weren't just fashion, they were statements. Silent declarations of sophistication, patience, and status. You step quietly into a side room, lanterns swaying gently overhead, illuminating trays of ornate combs carved from ivory and polished hardwood, their teeth so fine they look better suited for a doll's head than these monumental coiffures. A bored-looking maid gently turns one in her hand, its handle etched with tiny dragons, the creature's eyes glinting as the candlelight flickers. It's in these late-night preparations that the real magic and the real work happens. 1. Courtesan sighs softly as a hairdresser tightens the final twist of a bun with a thin ribbon of black silk. The hair is impossibly shiny, the result of hours spent applying oils infused with jasmine, camellia, and sometimes even bear fat. You try not to imagine the mess your hair would become if you attempted this without modern conditioner. A soft rustling draws your eyes to another courtesan, standing by a mirror taller than yourself, gently pinning a crescent-shaped ornament into her hair. It sparkles with tiny gems, each one catching and reflecting the warm light. The weight alone must feel like wearing a sleepy toddler on your head. But she moves with the grace of a drifting cloud. The atmosphere is quietly intense, whispered. Reminders about the emperor's preferences for tonight's entertainment drift around you like the faintest breeze. A nervous giggle slips from one girl whose hair is still only halfway constructed, an alarming maze of braids and puffs that seems to defy gravity entirely. She catches your gaze in the mirror and flashes a conspiratorial smile, as if you both know this level of glamour is hilariously impractical for anything except lying perfectly still. Meanwhile, a senior courtesan moves among the others, checking hairdos with an appraising eye. Her own hairstyle stands at least a foot tall, a swirling sculpture, adorned with dangling pearls that sway ever so slightly as she nods approval or gently corrects a crooked pin. Every strand of hair must align with the current ideal, smooth but voluminous, structured but seemingly effortless. Beauty standards are merciless, but here they're also almost hypnotic. Softly in the corner, a musician tunes a pipa, the notes fluttering like sleepy fireflies across the room. Even the instrument seems to bow to the grand hairstyles, the strings. Gentle hum blending perfectly with the sound of rustling silk and the soft clack of hairpins. You can almost feel the tension of the hairdressers. Hands, every adjustment risks undoing hours of work. One slip, and dozens of pins, combs, and loops could collapse like an overambitious game of Jenga. It's quietly thrilling, like watching a cat walk a tightrope above a koi pond. Yet there's also a serene pride in these nighttime preparations. The courtesans know the power of a perfect silhouette, the subtle sway of a dangling ornament, the delicate shadows cast by layered braids as they bow. Each movement is a dance of elegance, a testament to the calm confidence required to carry such fragile architectural wonders. As you settle back, the room's gentle sounds, whispers, distant music, the soft patter of slippers begin to lull. You, the courtesans, stand like statues of midnight beauty, their hair rising proudly toward the ceiling, swaying slightly with every exhale, reminding you that sometimes the most powerful statements are made without words, just silk, patience, and a tower of hair designed to catch the moonlight. The courtyard fades behind you as you slip deeper into the warm glow of the palace corridors, where the secret of every courtesan's glossy, gravity-defying hair lies not just in nimble fingers or elaborate styles, but in the rich oils patiently massaged into every strand. You find yourself standing beside an open lacquer box, its compartments neatly filled with shimmering liquids of amber, deep green and smoky gold, each bottle a sleepy elixir for the hair of the tank elite. One maid lifts a small, delicate brush and dips it into an oil as thick as honey, gently warming it in her palm before smoothing it onto a courtesan's long, black hair. The air fills with the subtle, calming scent of camellia flowers, sweet and powdery, mixing with notes of sandalwood drifting from a brazier nearby. It's an oddly soothing scene, the quiet patience of the process, the soft pull of the brush, the nearly imperceptible sigh of contentment from the courtesan as her hair drinks in the nourishing oil. Historians still argue whether these oils were purely cosmetic or carried medicinal benefits, since some formulas included rare herbs believed to ease headaches or even calm the mind, like a medieval spa treatment, but with fewer cucumbers on the eyes and more ceremonial precision. Regardless of the intention, the result was unmistakable. Hair that shone like polished obsidian, reflecting lantern light in smooth, endless waves. As you watch, a hairdresser explains in a hushed tone how these oils were carefully blended with ingredients sourced from far beyond the capital. Some formulas boasted hints of bear fat, prized for its supposed ability to strengthen each strand. You quietly hope your favorite shampoo never takes inspiration from that. Yet it's hard to argue with the results. The hair practically ripples as it's combed, every stroke releasing a soft sheen and a subtle fragrance that would make even the most high-end conditioner blush. Nearby, another courtesan sits with eyes half closed, dozing lightly as two maids work together, hands moving in unison as they brush layer upon layer of warm oil into her hair. Tiny glass bowls catch the excess oil, their rims glinting with each soft splash. It's mesmerizing, the rhythmic brushing, the gentle pull, the quiet sighs of relaxation. If you weren't already sleepy, the scene alone might send you drifting. Each bottle of oil is labeled with meticulous calligraphy, some indicating the purpose of the blend, like for shine, for thickness, or for calming frizz. Others are more poetic, moonlit tresses, or whispers of the plum blossom. One maid winks as she sets down a bottle labeled Dragon's Secret, and you imagine the marketing potential if ancient Tang influencers had been around to peddle these miracle potions. A soft conversation drifts your way. The maids debating whether adding crushed pearls to oil truly improved hair luster or was just a luxurious gimmick. Their gentle bickering makes you smile, as does the maid who quietly admits to accidentally adding sesame oil once turning a high society beauty treatment into an aromatic hint of stir-free. You crouch down to watch how the oil spreads smoothly, from root to tip, the hair slowly relaxing under the brush's patient strokes. Each strand grows darker, heavier, and more reflective, until the courtesan's hair seems to capture every flicker of candlelight, turning it into a slow, mesmerizing shimmer. It's oddly hypnotic, like watching waves ripple across a midnight lake. The hairdresser shares a softly spoken secret. Some courtesans used their oils as subtle signals of mood or intention. A hint of sweet osmanthus oil might suggest flirtation, while sharper notes of ginger could quietly warn of irritation or impatience. These scents drifted from hair to nearby admirers, weaving unspoken messages into the humid palace air. Your eyes wander to another mirror, where a courtesan examines her gleaming hair with a sleepy, satisfied smile. The moon's reflection dances across her polished strands, highlighting the deep blue-black hue achieved through carefully selected dyes, an effect impossible without first saturating hair with weeks' worth of nourishing oils. You realize these preparations were never quick. They were slow, deliberate rituals, best shared with maids and hairdressers in the hushed hours of late night. You can almost feel the weight of these hair rituals, how they transformed hair from something simple into a symbol of power, poise, and patience. Tang courtesans knew their hair was their crown, and every drop of oil was a quiet investment in the intricate styles yet to come. A sudden gust of cool night air drifts through the corridor, stirring the tips of freshly oiled hair, sending a soft scent of jasmine swirling around you. It wraps you in a gentle hug of perfume and history, a fragrant reminder that beauty in the Tang court wasn't just about looking perfect. It was a slow dance of time, devotion, and the gentle hum of quiet conversations shared under lantern light. You lean against a carved pillar, eyelids heavy, the rhythmic brushing and heady scents gently pulling you toward sleep. The lanterns flicker, the courtesans murmur, and the hair oil glistens, each element a delicate thread weaving you deeper into this serene midnight world. You gently shift your weight from one foot to the other, trying not to interrupt the dreamy rhythm of the hairdressers as they move on to their next mesmerizing feat, building breathtaking volume. Here, in the soft glow of lanterns, courtesans prepare for the peace, resistance of their look, hair piled high with enough drama to make any modern updo look like a quick ponytail. The process begins with careful layering, starting at the crown of the head. You watch, wide-eyed, as hairdressers weave small, discreet cushions made of horsehair, silk, or even dried moss into the courtesan's locks. Each cushion adds subtle lift, allowing hair to rise in smooth arcs and sweeping curves that seem to defy gravity. These secret supports are tucked so skillfully beneath layers of silky hair that you can't help but wonder how many of your friends would love to borrow one for their next big event. Historians still argue whether the tallest Tang hairstyles, some recorded as nearly 2 feet high, were practical for actual palace gatherings, or more like a catwalk-only stunt of the 8th century. Regardless, The towering silhouettes were a bold way to announce elegance, wealth, and the willingness to endure neck cramps in the name of beauty. Your eyes trace the careful pattern as hair is divided, teased, and layered around each cushion. Thin ivory combs glide through, smoothing strands into place, while long wooden pins secure the towering shape. The hair rises higher with each patient stroke, until the courtesan's reflection reveals a dramatic silhouette that looks like a living wave about to crash, yet somehow remains perfectly still. A soft groan escapes one courtesan as the weight of her magnificent hairstyle settles onto her head. You share a quiet smile with the nearest maid, who whispers that some of these hairdos were so heavy they needed occasional mid-evening readjustments, or even a second set of hands to help the courtesan stand back up if she toppled over. It's like balancing a sleepy toddler on your head. But far more fashionable. A gentle breeze drifts through the corridor, and you catch the sweet scent of floral hair oils again as the courtesan's hair ripples just slightly enough to show off the subtle bounce built into the structure, like a castle with secret passageways. These hairstyles are engineering marvels. Every hidden cushion, every layer of hair, and every tight braid quietly working together to maintain the illusion of effortless elegance. Nearby, a hairdresser uses a thin needle to gently poke and adjust the shape, sculpting each curve with the precision of a watchmaker. It's oddly satisfying to watch the delicate adjustments, like someone slowly fluffing a cloud until it's the perfect, dreamy puff of nighttime splendor. The courtesan sits impossibly still, her eyes half-lidded, breathing slow and calm, as if meditating through the ache building in her neck. You glance at another courtesan across the room, where a towering bun swirls upward like the spiral of a seashell. A slender hairpin with a dangling crystal teardrop catches the light, sending sleepy sparkles dancing across the walls. She tilts her head, testing the balance, and you hear a soft sigh of relief. No accidental toppling tonight. A maid giggles quietly, confessing that sometimes courtesans with especially ambitious hairdos had to eat dinner with their necks stretched sideways, leaning their chins forward to avoid dipping their elaborate towers into the soup. You stifle your own laugh at the mental image, picturing a serene beauty trying desperately not to get chicken broth on her pearl hairpins. As the hair rises to its final height, the courtesan's face takes on an almost regal composure, framed by glossy waves curving like sculpted ribbons. The shadows of her towering hair dance across her cheeks with every flicker of the lanterns. It's a living work of art, bold yet delicate, dramatic yet serene. You run your fingers along your own scalp, imagining the quiet pressure of so many layers pressing gently down. The sheer patience required to build these hairstyles is astonishing. Every hairdresser moves with unhurried grace, each motion deliberate and mindful, like performing a quiet meditation. Time seems to slow with every braid and pin, and you find yourself breathing more deeply, matching the room's gentle pace. Over your shoulder, a hairdresser mutters softly about the latest palace trend, adding tiny, featherweight bamboo sticks to extend height even further, allowing hairstyles to arch skyward like the gentle curve of a pagoda's eaves. Historians still debate if these innovations were personal statements of style or subtle contests between rival courtesans. Either way, you can almost feel the tension these secret competitions must have inspired among palace residents. The courtesans exchange sleepy smiles as they catch each other's reflections, sharing silent pride in the grandeur balanced above their brows. Their expressions say what words don't dare, In a world where beauty is a quiet language of power, height truly matters. The air grows warmer, heavy with the scent of camellia and sandalwood. As you step back to admire the room, a sea of towering, glistening hairdos swaying like a quiet forest under midnight stars. Each intricate style stands as proof of patient dedication, steady hands, and the subtle art of turning simple strands into a breathtaking symbol of status. The hush of the corridor wraps around you like a warm blanket as you drift closer to a table scattered with ornaments so bizarrely beautiful they look like artifacts from a dream. Courtesan's hair wasn't simply sculpted, it was transformed into a stage for intricate, sometimes outlandish decorations, each piece a quiet proclamation of personal style, social ambition, or imperial favor. Your eyes widen as you lean in to study a phoenix crown, a towering headdress made of thin, gilded bronze wires bent into flaring feathers that catch the soft light. Tiny ruby eyes gleam from the bird's head, giving it a sleepy fierceness that perfectly complements the quiet confidence of the woman about to pin it into her midnight tower of hair. The piece is so big, it almost looks like it might flap away on its own if the breeze picked up. A maid demonstrates how to attach it, gently tucking a thin metal prong deep into the woven hair, twisting it just so to make sure the phoenix perches securely. You shiver at the thought of walking around with a miniature bird of prey bobbing with every step. Yet it's clear these ornaments were a badge of honor, visible proof of skill, patience, and devotion to Tang court fashion. Next to the phoenix crown rests a collection of dangling beads strung on fine silver wires, each bead painted with tiny blossoms, so delicate you almost expect to hear them rustle like petals when they sway. A courtesan picks up a set, slipping them into her hair. With a practiced flick, as she turns her head, the beads tinkle softly, adding a quiet music to her every movement. One courtesan, her face serene as moonlit water, selects a hairpin topped with a miniature jade lotus. She slides it into her elaborate bun with slow precision, the cool green stone contrasting beautifully with the deep, glossy black of her hair. A maid tells you the lotus symbolizes purity and perseverance. Ironic, she adds with a sly grin, considering palace life was rarely either. Historians still argue whether these ornaments were purely personal choices or assigned according to strict court rank, with some believing the emperor himself issued special ornaments as silent awards for loyal service or remarkable performances. Whichever it was, each decoration carried quiet meaning, turning every head, tilt, or glance into a subtle conversation of power. A courtesan nearby tests her headdress, gently bobbing her head to watch delicate golden butterflies mounted on fine springs flutter in slow, hypnotic arcs. You imagine how guests at court banquets must have been quietly entranced by these dreamy, floating creatures swaying softly above the candlelit tables. Your attention drifts to an ornament shaped like a sleepy dragon curled around a pearl. The dragon's tail spirals around a thin hairpin, its mouth open as if breathing a tiny, silent flame. Its pearl catches the lantern light, glowing softly, and you can't help but think this fierce, miniature guardian might just scare off any rival courtesans who come too close. The maids laugh quietly as they describe stories of ornaments gone. Awry hairpins so long they accidentally poked dinner companions, or delicate beads getting tangled in each other during group dances. Yet even these near disasters were part of the charm, a reminder that beauty in the Tang court required not just patience but a sense of humor. One maid produces a set of tiny bells no bigger than peas, designed to be tucked among braids so they chimed softly with every movement. She winks as she demonstrates their delicate sound, a sleepy tinkling like wind chimes in a distant dream. You imagine the gentle pressure to walk with measured grace, so the bell's song stayed soft and soothing, rather than jangling like a startled cat. Nearby, a courtesan quietly slides a slender hairpin carved from polished coral into place. The coral's rosy hue stands out vividly against her dark hair, the effect quietly shocking yet undeniably elegant. A hairdresser notes in hushed tones that coral was once believed to ward off evil spirits, though, she adds, it's probably more useful for warding off bored suitors. A few courtesans gather near a polished bronze mirror, quietly admiring each other's hairpieces, heads tipping this way and that to catch the best angles. Their shared smiles are sleepy but proud, each ornament swaying slightly like the first slow dance of a midnight ball. You sense the deep satisfaction in these moments, the quiet thrill of turning hair into a secret garden of symbols and stories. The room glitters with tiny points of light reflecting off countless beads, gems, and polished metals. Lantern flames flicker and dance in the ornaments, creating a serene constellation of shimmering details above every courtesan's head. The atmosphere feels almost sacred, quietly reverent, yet humming with the understated humor of women who know their towering bejeweled hairstyles are as impractical as they are mesmerizing. As you step back, eyelids growing heavier with each swaying ornament, you realize that true magic wasn't in the phoenixes or dragons or lotus flowers alone, but in the quiet artistry of blending them with hair so patiently styled that every nod, every gentle tilt of the head told a silent story under the pale Tang moon. You linger near the edge of the lantern-lit room, your gaze pulled to a low table where bowls of brilliant powders gleam like small, sleepy rainbows. Tonight's crowning touch for some courtesans is adding a hint of shimmering color to their already breathtaking hair, and art that blends patience, precision, and just a pinch of daring. It's the quiet finale to hours of careful preparation. One maid picks up a tiny brush and dips it into a bowl of crushed malachite, tapping off the excess before sweeping it gently across a courtesan's glossy strands. The emerald dust clings lightly to the hair, transforming it into a cascade of moonlit green that shimmers whenever she tilts her head. A hushed gasp of admiration rises around the room as the color catches the lantern's glow. The air grows thick with a soft, metallic scent as other colors join the scene. Powdered lapis lazuli adding a dreamy blue sheen, crushed cinnabar lending a daring crimson glint. Some mixtures even contain flakes of mica, creating a subtle sparkle like stars caught in midnight tresses. You watch, entranced, as the colors softly drift through the air, settling in delicate clouds before finding their way to each courtesan's hair. Historians still argue whether these dyes were reserved for special occasions or worn casually by the most daring trendsetters, but everyone agrees the technique reflected the tent court's love for pushing beauty's boundaries. Coloring hair with minerals wasn't a mere whim. It was a quiet rebellion against monotony, a subtle way to declare individuality in a world of strict etiquette. A hairdresser whispers that adding colors to hair was also a way to align oneself with the seasons, bright greens for spring's renewal, deep reds for autumn's waning warmth, or soft blues to match winter's quiet chill. Courtesans could send secret signals about their moods, hopes, or allegiances with just a hint of color dusted across their crowns. As you step closer, a sudden waft of floral perfume mixes with the scent of minerals, making your head spin gently, like a sleepy carousel. A courtesan seated before you has delicate streaks of rose gold running through her hair. each shimmering like sunset reflecting off a calm river. Her expression is calm and serene, her eyes half-lidded as her hairdresser smooths the colored strands with a fine-toothed comb, each motion slow and rhythmic. Nearby, another courtesan opts for boldness, a streak of deep indigo applied in graceful arcs that echo the sweeping curves of her towering hairstyle. The color shifts subtly in the light from midnight blue to smoky purple, giving her hair an almost otherworldly glow. You find yourself quietly jealous, knowing your modern hair dye has nothing on this ancient artistry. A maid shares a sleepy giggle with her friend, recalling how one overly ambitious courtesan once insisted on matching her hair color to every course of an imperial banquet: green for vegetables, gold for roasted meats, and silver for desserts. The story drifts through the room like a warm breeze, and even the hairdressers pause to smile, each imagining the chaos of constant color changes between dishes. You lean in as a hairdresser carefully seals the powdered colors with a mist of rosewater, ensuring the pigments cling gently to each strand through an evening of bowing, dancing, and quiet flirting. The room fills with the soft hiss of spritzed mist and the even softer sighs of courtesans finally seeing their finished colored masterpieces. Another courtesan's hair catches your eye, strands streaked with pale, shimmering white. The maid explains its crushed mother of pearl said to capture the moon's essence and bring subtle protection from ill fortune. She confides that some believed wearing mother of pearl kept gossip at bay, since it reflected not only light, but the envious eyes of potential rivals. A breeze slips through an open window, stirring colored hair into gentle motion. The minerals catch the light like tiny sparks, creating a dreamy constellation of swirling hues. The effect is breathtaking. Courtesans seem to glow with the calm fire of distant stars, each unique color a quiet testament to the creative freedom and confident beauty of Tang Dynasty style. You feel yourself sway slightly, lulled by the slow rhythm of brushing, the shifting patterns of shimmering color, and the hushed laughter of maids. It's easy to forget the time, to lose yourself in the soft world of subtle color and delicate hair artistry. You run your fingers through your own hair absently, imagining streaks of moonlit blue or forest green gliding through your locks. But you're quickly reminded of the difference as you catch a courtesan's reflection. Hers is a masterpiece, a soft tapestry of colors and textures that somehow looks both impossibly complex and effortlessly natural. As the night deepens, lantern flames burn lower, their glow mirrored by the colored hair of every courtesan present. The shifting hues blend with the flickering light, creating a quietly surreal atmosphere, one where time seems to slip away and each moment drips by as slowly and softly as the mineral powders settling on midnight hair. The colored hair sways softly as you follow the courtesans into a quieter chamber, where another nightly ritual begins, the gentle art of washing hair. If you think your shower routine is a hassle, you're about to feel grateful these temps. Courtesans turned hair washing into an elaborate ceremony lasting hours, involving warm, scented water, slow massages, and the kind of patience you'd need to binge every season of your favorite show in one sitting. A pair of maids gently pour steaming water infused with fragrant herbs, lotus petals, dried chrysanthemum, and slips of sandalwood over the courtesans' hair. The steam rises, curling through lantern light like sleepy clouds, carrying a delicate perfume that wraps you in soft, calming warmth. The courtesan closes her eyes, her face serene, as if each droplet melts away the day's tensions. Nearby, A wooden basin carved with swirling dragons stands ready to catch the water. Polished so smooth it reflects the hair above like a quiet mirror. You lean closer and catch your own reflection, blurry and distorted, as if you're peering into a dream. The rippling water glints with hints of blue and green from the mineral colors being gently rinsed away, tiny flecks of mica swirling like stars in a sleepy night sky. Historians still argue whether these daily washes were practical or a luxury reserved for special occasions. Some records suggest courtesans washed their hair nearly every evening to keep it pristine for the next day's styling. Others believe it was a rarer indulgence, saved for festival nights or imperial banquets. Either way, you're struck by the quiet luxury of such a thorough, attentive cleansing. You watch as a maid applies a creamy paste of ground rice and milk, gently working it into the hair. The paste softens and loosens oils and powders without stripping the hair's natural luster. She massages the scalp in slow, circular motions, her hands almost hypnotic as they glide over the courtesan's head. It's like a lullaby for the senses, each motion coaxing you further towards sleep. The maids move with perfect coordination, pouring fresh, warm water to rinse away the paste, then wrapping the hair in soft linen towels embroidered with delicate floral patterns. You notice how carefully they pat, never rub, the heavy strands to avoid tangling or breaking the hair painstakingly nurtured for months. The towels themselves release a faint scent of sun-dried cotton, adding another layer of subtle comfort. To the ritual, a courtesan's eyes flutter open as the final rinse trickles down her temples, cool and soothing. She catches your gaze and offers a sleepy smile, her face flushed gently from the warm water. Her hair, dark and gleaming, flows down her back like a quiet waterfall, each strand lying smooth and straight after its patient washing. A maid nearby shares a hushed story about a courtesan who once fell asleep during a washing so thorough that she woke up convinced she'd died and been reincarnated with the world's cleanest hair. You chuckle softly, your own eyelids growing heavier as the quiet laughter drifts around the steamy room. The hairdressers step in, carefully combing the damp hair with fine ivory combs, starting at the ends and slowly working up to avoid painful snags. Each stroke is a gentle whisper of sound, a soft susurration that pairs perfectly with the rhythmic dripping of water back into the basins. The combination lulls the room into a dreamy hush, broken only by the occasional sleepy giggle or contented sigh. Once most of the water is patted away, courtesans lean forward as maids gently comb and separate strands to allow faster drying. Small braziers of glowing charcoal radiate subtle heat, helping speed the process without scorching the delicate hair. You feel the gentle warmth on your own cheeks and imagine how comforting it must be to drift half asleep while your hair dries in the quiet flicker of firelight. Another maid adds a final rinse of cooled rice water, a technique borrowed from kitchen leftovers, said to leave hair silky and strong. Historians note this humble but ingenious tradition, likely spread through word of mouth from palace kitchens to boudoirs, quietly connecting cooks and courtesans through a shared secret of beauty. One hairdresser softly hums a tune as she combs, a slow, repetitive melody that seems to vibrate through the warm air. Each note blends with the subtle crackle of the braziers, the soft drip of water, and the quiet rustle of linen towels being folded away. It's like nature's ASMR, a sleepy symphony of textures and sounds that soothes your every nerve. As the final steps unfold, you notice the transformation. Hair emerges dark, lustrous, free of powders and oils, yet somehow more radiant than before. Each courtesan's hair seems to shimmer with an inner light, the careful washing restoring both beauty and spirit. You can't help but wonder if this long, gentle process cleansed not just their hair, but the weight of palace pressures carried through the day, with each movement unhurried and serene. The courtesans sit taller, eyelids drooping, hair still, warm from braziers, and you feel your own breath slow to match the room's languid pace. The lanterns glow like sleepy fireflies, the scents of herbs and warm water linger, and the air hums softly with the quiet magic of a ritual that turned simple cleansing into a nighttime art. The hair, now clean and shimmering, awaits the patient hands of a master, one of the trusted hairdressers who hold the true secrets of the Tang Court's most elaborate styles. You stand quietly near a workbench as a small, wiry woman with serene eyes prepares her tools, each comb and pin laid out with the precision of a sleepy surgeon. She cracks her knuckles softly, her face focused yet calm, as if about to sculpt a masterpiece from living strands. These hairdressers were more than stylists. They were quiet confidants, essential allies, and behind-the-scenes power players. A perfectly executed hairstyle could lift a courtesan's status overnight, while a lopsided bun could trigger quiet ridicule and subtle exile from palace favor. Hairdressers worked in a delicate space between beauty, politics, and whispered secrets, each stroke of the comb shaping not just hair, but lives. A hairdresser gently runs her hand through a courtesan's damp hair, murmuring praise for its thickness, her fingers deftly separating strands as she begins weaving the foundation. She hums softly, a low, comforting tune that sounds like a lullaby for both the courtesan and the dozens of sleepy onlookers in the room. You can't help but sway with the gentle melody, eyelids growing heavier with every note. Historians still argue whether these hairdressers were palace-trained specialists or whether some came from family lines of stylists, with generations perfecting the art of courtly coiffure. Some records suggest imperial officials selected and trained hairdressers from childhood, instilling techniques and secrets passed quietly through a lineage as valuable as any warrior clan. The hairdresser selects a thin, curved ivory comb and begins creating the base of a massive, double-looped bun. Her hands moving so fluidly they seem to anticipate the hair's every subtle resistance. She occasionally dips her comb into a small bowl of jasmine oil to keep hair sleek and manageable, the scent rising in gentle waves. The courtesans' breathing slows. You imagine each comb stroke brushing away the day's worries, as well as untangling stray strands. Every few minutes, the hairdresser pauses, stepping back to squint critically at her work, head tilting from side to side like an artist studying a nearly finished painting. She tugs lightly here, smooths a ripple there, never rushing. The room falls into an almost meditative silence, broken only by the occasional squeak of comb teeth gliding through hair. A maid whispers that hairdressers were often so trusted they knew every secret of the courtesans they served. They could slip quietly into a room at midnight to help repin a slipping style, or carry coded messages in the form of a subtly placed ornament. More than once, a change in hair shape signaled shifting alliances, allowing rumors to slip gently through the palace like incense smoke. You lean closer as the hairdresser begins the final coil, a thick rope of hair looping around itself like the swirl of a sleepy cat's tail. She gently pins the shape into place with slim wooden sticks painted in pale gold lacquer, their ends adorned with tiny cranes frozen mid-flight. Each pin slides in with a quiet click, securing the layers in a spiral of understated elegance. Nearby, Another hairdresser helps a young courtesan whose hair keeps slipping free. She gently scolds her for fidgeting, murmuring that impatience is the enemy of perfect hair. The courtesan giggles softly, cheeks flushed, but sits straighter under the quiet discipline of hands that have coaxed countless unruly heads into serene works of art. The hairdresser explains, almost to herself, how important it is to match a hairstyle to the courtesan's face shape, rank, and the evening's occasion. Some styles, she says, must appear lighter and airy for spring banquets. Others demand a bold architectural silhouette for autumn festivals. The choices are endless, but each is crafted with subtle intention, like writing a poem only a few will ever read. One courtesan gently asks about adding a delicate twist to the nape of her neck, and the hairdresser smiles, her eyes brightening as she weaves a tiny braid that disappears smoothly into the larger structure. It's an almost invisible flourish, but the courtesan's eyes light up as she admires the detail in the mirror. You feel a subtle thrill watching beauty unfold so intimately. You notice how the hairdressers never raise their voices or rush their hands. Everything moves at the pace of a drifting cloud. Even when adjusting a stubborn curl or reweaving a twisted braid, they remain calm, focused, and gentle. It's clear these women embody the Tang ideal of quiet mastery. Serene confidence paired with years of patient practice. The room grows warmer as lanterns burn low, shadows stretching across walls, lined with hairpins and combs. The rhythmic sound of combing becomes a lullaby, your breathing unconsciously matching its slow tempo. The hairdresser's quiet hum carries you deeper into drowsiness, the scent of warm hair oils drifting through the air like a cozy blanket. As the final pin slides home, the hairdresser steps back, her expression proud yet serene. The hair rises in glossy loops and coils, every strand perfectly aligned, each curve a testament to the trusted hands that shaped it. The hairdresser bows softly to her sleepy client, her eyes reflecting the quiet satisfaction of another masterpiece, complete. The air thickens with a warm, sleepy quiet as you watch the courtesan's freshly pinned hair transform under the patient hands of the hairdressers. Shifting now to the intricate world of braids and twists. Here, hair becomes more than a woven tapestry, a delicate lattice of silken strands, telling stories of elegance and endless patience. You notice how each braid begins with careful division, the hairdresser's fingers dancing with unhurried grace as she separates locks into perfectly even sections. She hums softly, a tune you can't quite place, but that seems to wrap you in a fog of relaxation. Each movement is deliberate, pulling each section taut before crossing it over with a gentle tension that keeps the hair flat and smooth. The simplest braid might start with just 3 strands, but soon you're mesmerized by more complex patterns. 5, 7, even 9 strands, each passing over and under the others like the softest loom at work. It's almost hypnotic, like watching ripples on a quiet pondage wave of hair gently folding into the next, creating mesmerizing patterns that catch the lantern light. Historians still argue whether certain braiding patterns had coded meanings among Tang courtesans, whether a particular style signaled a secret tryst, an invitation to dance, or a quiet declaration of loyalty to a powerful patron. The truth is lost to time, but the mystery lingers like a secret melody hidden in these sleepy, silken ropes. A hairdresser demonstrates a braiding technique that creates a swirling spiral down the back, the braid hugging itself like a sleepy vine wrapping around a tree. She weaves the hair so tightly that it lies flat yet flexible, the pattern rippling like the surface of a gentle stream. It's a level of control and patience that makes your own rushed ponytail feel like a cosmic joke. You watch her fingers slip ribbons of crimson silk into the braid, the bright threads peeking through dark hair like thin veins of fire. The ribbons sway softly as the courtesan tilts her head, adding a subtle shimmer to every sleepy movement. One maid laughs quietly, recalling a time when a courtesan demanded her braid match every color of the rainbow, an all-night project that left hairdressers yawning until dawn. Another style involves looping braids around the base of the head, creating a woven halo of glossy hair that frames the courtesan's face in a serene, almost celestial aura. Tiny pins hold the loops in place, each tipped with minuscule gems or polished shells that catch the dim light, adding sleepy glints to the midnight dark strands. A hairdresser near you begins a waterfall braid, letting small sections drop away from the main plate to create a delicate, cascading effect. Each falling strand sways gently with every breath, like wisps of mist drifting from a silent waterfall in some moonlit forest. The courtesan closes her eyes, her face softening with each gentle tug, clearly lost in the soothing ritual. You lean closer to the mirror reflecting the scene, dozens of braids crossing, looping, swirling, each unique yet all sharing the same quiet artistry. Every courtesan's hair becomes a soft maze, a secret map drawn in threads of black and dark brown, some strands kissed with subtle hints of colored powder still clinging after the washing. One hairdresser uses a long, slender needle to tuck loose ends invisibly into the braid, sealing each twist with a hidden knot so it holds through long nights of music and quiet conversation. She murmurs a rhyme to herself, a sleepy chant passed down through generations of stylists. Tight as silk, smooth as jade, may this braid and beauty stay. The courtesans share knowing glances in the mirror, their eyes sparkling with sleepy amusement. Some braid patterns are clearly designed to impress rivals. Others seem almost playful, with loops and spirals reminiscent of a coiling dragon or swirling clouds. You sense each courtesan carefully choosing a style not just to please the emperor or guests, but to send quiet messages of wit, confidence, or secret mischief. A hairdresser softly confesses that she once created a braid so complicated it took hours to unravel the next morning, leaving her client giggling in bed as two maids worked with sleepy patience to free each delicate knot. The story drifts through the room, carried by hushed laughter that ripples like a gentle breeze in the far corner. Another hairdresser's hands move so quickly they blur, crafting a lattice braid that seems to hover above the courtesan's scalp, light and airy as a spiderweb kissed with dew. The structure's beauty is breathtaking, each crossing strand spaced perfectly, the entire pattern arching gracefully to follow the curve of the courtesan's head as braids settle into their final forms. Hairdressers secure them with pins and ribbons, each tie a quiet flourish, each knot a patient promise that this art will last the night. The air grows heavier with the scent of floral hair, oils and warm silk, the room's sleepy energy deepening with every finished braid. You lean back, eyelids drooping, watching the shimmering hair swirl and loop in patterns too beautiful to fully grasp. The courtesan's reflections catch your eye one last time, a haul of sleepy, intricate braids that weave together not just hair, but dreams, ambitions, and the quiet magic of a night that never quite lets go. The braids glisten softly as you slip into the hush of late evening, where courtesans gather by the moonlit balcony to add final touches to their hairstyles. Subtle shifts and seasonal flourishes that change with every festival or quiet celebration. In the Tang Dynasty, Hair wasn't just a canvas for beauty, but a gentle way to reflect the shifting moods of the calendar itself. Tonight, the air carries hints of spring, with the sweet scent of peach blossoms drifting in from the palace gardens. A hairdresser moves gracefully between courtesans, weaving tiny silk flowers into braids and buns, each blossom a sleepy tribute to the season's arrival. The petals sway gently, blending with dark hair to create delicate halos of soft pink and white that seem to float in the lantern light. Historians still argue whether these seasonal accessories were strictly dictated by imperial edicts or if courtesans took quiet liberties, slipping in flowers or charms they found personally meaningful. Some believe courtesans who bent the rules slightly, adding secret symbols to their hair, quietly signaled alliances or romantic interests in ways polite conversation never could. A maid nearby giggles softly as she recalls the lantern festival, when courtesans twisted paper lantern charms into their hair, each one flickering with a tiny candle that turned the palace halls into a slow-moving galaxy of lights. You imagine the breathtaking sight, glowing stars bobbing above elegant heads, casting sleepy reflections on polished floors as the seasons passed. Hair accessories changed like subtle notes in a long, quiet song. In summer, courtesans often adorned their hairstyles with thin strips of silk dyed in bright blues and greens, evoking the coolness of rivers and bamboo groves. During autumn, amber-hued beads or golden leaf pins caught the slanting sunlight, shimmering like fallen leaves dancing in the breeze. A hairdresser shows you a small collection of charms crafted from carved jade, their shapes ranging from swaying willow branches to coiled dragons. She slides one, shaped like a crane, into a courtesan's high bun. Its wings flare delicately, echoing the sweeping curves of the hairstyle. The maid whispers that cranes symbolized longevity and quiet grasser. Perfect match for the gentle confidence courtesans needed to thrive in palace life. In winter, the courtesan's hair would reflect the hush of snowfall. Silver hairpins, cool and luminous, peeked out like icicles among glossy black strands. Some women dusted their buns with the softest white powders, letting them sparkle faintly in lantern glow like a blanket of first snow. A hairdresser chuckles softly as she recounts how one courtesan wore so much white powder one winter evening that passing ministers mistook her for a drifting snow spirit. You watch as a hairdresser pins a delicate gold butterfly to a braid, its wings trembling softly with every breath of the evening breeze. The butterfly was a popular spring symbol, a sleepy nod to transformation and quiet beauty, and courtesans knew exactly how to tilt them so wings seemed to flutter with every turn of the head. One courtesan lifts a tiny mirror to admire the seasonal touches framing her face, her sleepy eyes glowing with satisfaction. She tips her head slowly, watching the flowers sway and beads shimmer, lost in the soft spectacle of her own reflection. You realize these subtle changes weren't just for others. They were small joys, quiet moments of self-expression that carried courtesans through the endless currents of palace life. The hairdresser's hands move with steady grace, their fingers deftly adjusting the placement of blossoms, beads, and charms. The sleepy room fills with the soft rustle of silk, the gentle clicks of pins sliding into place, and the quiet sighs of courtesans sinking into the last calm moments before the evening's festivities begin. Outside, the moon hangs low and full, its silver light brushing every hair ornament with a sleepy glow. The peach blossoms catch the pale beams, their soft colors muted into dreamy pastels. A cool breeze drifts through the balcony, rustling hair and flowers alike. and you feel time slow until every detail of the moment stretches out like a gentle yawn. A hairdresser tucks the final blossom into a courtesan's hair, smiling softly. As the petals settle among shimmering black strands, she wipes her hands on a silk cloth embroidered with tiny stars, the pattern echoing the night sky above. It's a quiet, perfect gesture, the kind that seals the memory of a night with a soft, invisible ribbon as you lean against a carved wooden screen. Eyelids drooping, you hear sleepy laughter ripple across the courtyard. Courtesans admire each other's seasonal flourishes, whispering praise and sharing stories of past festivals' moments when hair shimmered with spring's promise, summer's playfulness, autumn's quiet richness, or winter's serene hush. Tonight, the season's quiet beauty crowns every head with sleepy blossoms and shimmering symbols, a subtle chorus of nature's cycles gently reflected in the living art of Temp's hairstyles. And as you take a slow, deep breath of cool, blossom-scented air, you find yourself sinking deeper into the gentle magic of a world where even time itself seems to pause in quiet reverence for the changing seasons. You drift from the balcony back into the warm glow of the palace halls, where the courtesans' finished hairstyles stand as quiet monuments to another force shaping every strand. The Tang Court's relentless beauty standards. Here, perfection wasn't simply hoped for, it was expected, and nothing defined a courtesan's place at court more than the height, shine, and precision of her hair. You watch as a hairdresser inspects a courtesan's towering style, stepping back with a critical eye, adjusting a single pin with a delicate touch, then leaning forward to smooth a stray wisp until it lies perfectly flat. Each correction is small, but together they build a towering structure that quietly shouts, "Here is a woman of refinement, worthy of attention and respect." These standards weren't subtle. Records describe how the favored courtesans of powerful officials could spend up to 6 hours each morning perfecting their hairstyles. Maids whispered that the more important your audience, be it the emperor, a prince, or a visiting dignitary, the taller and more elaborate your hair needed to be. It wasn't just a trend. It was survival, a silent contest played out in braids, buns, and shimmering pins. A nearby maid giggles softly as she recalls stories of courtesans whose hair was so tall they had to crouch to pass through palace doors. You imagine trying to glide gracefully while practically bent double, all for the quiet thrill of seeing others' eyes widen at the sheer audacity of your silhouette. Historians still argue whether the extreme heights reached during the Tang's most competitive years were symbolic of rising social aspirations or simply the result of one-upmanship spiraling out of control. Whatever the reason, these hairdos became so central to a courtesan's identity that failing to meet the standard could mean losing invitations to important events or falling out of favor overnight. As you watch hairdressers check every angle, you notice how much the courtesan's expressions shift as their hair reaches completion. Shoulders lift subtly, spines straighten. A sleepy but powerful confidence settles into their eyes. It's as if each pin and braid wraps them in quiet armor, a fragile but essential shield in the cutthroat ballet of palace life. A hairdresser shows you a set of tiny measuring rods used to ensure buns rose to the correct height. These simple tools, etched with fine lines and polished smooth, look innocent enough until you realize they dictated the difference between a celebrated beauty and a cautionary tale of failed ambition. The rods slide silently along glossy hair, ensuring that every courtesan hit the sweet spot of towering grandeur without veering into comedic excess. Another hairdresser recalls a whispered tale of a courtesan who, in a moment of desperate creativity, stacked 4 separate cushions beneath her hair to add height overnight. The result was a hairstyle so alarmingly tall it swayed like a ship's mast with every step. She was the talk of the palace for weeks, a cautionary legend among hairdressers who now refer to the look as the tottering pine. You notice a young courtesan's worried expression reflected in a bronze mirror, eyes darting between her own hair and the sky-high styles of those around her. A maid murmurs encouragement, gently assuring her that volume isn't everything shine. Smoothness and precision can be just as powerful. The girl's breath slows as her hairdresser begins the final adjustments, her face softening as sleepy pride replaces her anxious frown. A subtle hierarchy reveals itself as you move through the room. Taller hair often indicates higher rank or stronger patronage, but understated styles with flawless smoothness can signal quiet power. A courtesan who doesn't need flashy height to command attention. It's a delicate dance of appearances, each woman choosing how to shape her image within the rigid lines drawn by court expectations. Courtesans exchange sleepy glances as they catch each other's reflections, measuring one another with quiet calculation and subtle admiration. The competition is gentle but constant, every hairstyle a quiet declaration of determination, skill and status. Nearby, a hairdresser carefully shapes a double loop of hair so smooth it reflects lantern light, like black glass. She tilts her head to check the symmetry, the quiet intensity in her eyes making it clear. Perfection isn't a suggestion. It's the air everyone breathes in these halls. You sense the quiet exhaustion. To how holding these standards day after day must weigh as heavily as the buns themselves. Yet each courtesan rises from her stool with sleepy poise, head held high, hair rising even higher, stepping into the soft night with the serene confidence of a woman who knows every strand is exactly where it should be. As the room quiets, lanterns flicker, casting slow-moving shadows of towering hair across silk screens painted with cranes and plum blossoms. The gentle rustle of robes whispers through the corridor, blending with the last murmurs of encouragement from hairdressers, who step back to admire their work, like artists signing their final brushstrokes. You follow the soft shuffle of slippers into a quieter courtyard, where the evening's peaceful hush settles like a blanket over the courtesans' headsets, now crowned with hair that quietly speaks volumes about their place in the world. Every twist, pin, and loop tells a story. And tonight you finally see how hair acted as a silent social signal in the Tang Dynasty's labyrinthine hierarchy. A hairdresser gently explains that a single bun at the nape was often a quiet mark of youth or inexperience, worn by new courtesans still finding their footing. A double bun suggested rising favor, each loop a subtle sign of growing influence. The high-status courtesans wore towering shapes layered with braids and decorated with ornate pins, announcing their prestige without saying a word as you slip between small clusters of courtesans practicing polite conversation. You notice how they subtly angle their heads to display their hair to best advantage. A sleepy tilt to one side reveals intricate braids. A gentle nod forward lets dangling ornaments sway with hypnotic grace. These tiny movements send signals as clear as spoken words. Confidence, caution, flirtation, or quiet challenge. Historians still argue whether the meanings of specific styles were formally taught or learned by careful observation. Some believe courtesans memorized subtle codes woven into hair, each knot or coil quietly referencing shifting alliances and whispered palace rumors. Others think it was an unspoken language developed naturally, a secret script as flexible and fluid as the strands it lived in. A young courtesan passes by, her hair pulled back in a smooth style with a single delicate braid tracing down one side. A mark of modest ambition, maids whisper. You watch her eyes flicker nervously toward a senior courtesan, whose hair rises in sweeping loops decorated with shimmering pearls. The older woman's serene gaze holds just a hint of amusement, as if reminding the younger one that hair is not only a canvas for beauty but a measure of power patiently earned. Two courtesans exchange subtle nods, the tips of their jeweled pins nearly touching as they lean close to whisper. Their matching styles are tall, spiraling bun with a single jade comb reveal. They're part of the same quiet faction within the palace, bound by friendship, mutual goals, or shared patrons. The hair speaks for them long before their hushed words do. A maid points out a courtesan whose style is notably simple despite her reputation, her hair falling in glossy sheets adorned with only a few tiny pins. It's a quiet declaration of untouchable confidence. She needs no towering braids to prove her place at court. Others glance at her with a mix of envy and admiration, understanding the quiet power of understatement in a world obsessed with height and ornament. You pause near a courtesan whose hair is styled in a sweeping crescent that curves like a waning moon, a shape rumored to signal mourning or quiet withdrawal from social circles. Her eyes remain downcast as she sits alone, her hairstyles softly announcing what words cannot, a desire for solitude, or perhaps a subtle protest against recent slights. Nearby, sleepy laughter drifts from a group of courtesans, comparing the meanings of their hairpins. One woman twirls a gold phoenix, teasing that it proclaims her fiery spirit, while another flashes a hairpin carved into a turtle, quietly suggesting slow but steady ambitions. Their soft giggles ripple across the courtyard, each tilt of their heads reinforcing a shared language of subtle signals. You notice how even the maids interpret these styles, adjusting their own attitudes toward each courtesan depending on the quiet messages their hair sends. A maid moves with extra care around those wearing elaborate, intimidating coils, but teases those with looser, playful buns, knowing when to speak freely and when to keep her words as tightly bound as the braids. The moonlight turns each courtesan's hair into a glowing halo, the shine reflecting their silent status as clearly as any title. The courtyard becomes a softly shifting constellation of silent signals, each courtesan moving like a star drifting slowly across the night sky. Her place determined by the careful artistry crowning her head. A hairdresser murmurs an old saying. A woman's words may lie, but her hair tells the truth. The phrase hangs sleepily in the air, drifting into the darkness like a quiet warning that in a world of careful appearances, hair remains the most honest confession. As you lean against a stone balustrade, eyelids heavy, you watch courtesans pass like dreams, each hairstyle a story quietly unraveling in slow, graceful movements. You feel the weight of unspoken words, the delicate power of hair woven into silent sentences that only those who truly watch can read. Tonight, under the silver wash of moonlight, the courtyard glows with unspoken stories, braids whispering secrets, pins flashing warnings or invitations, and every shimmering strand reminding you that here, hair isn't just an accessory, it's a living language of quiet power. As the soft hum of conversations drifts away into the quiet of the courtyard, you slip into a side room where courtesans lean back in sleepy contentment, swapping their secrets for keeping these towering, intricate styles intact. Tonight, you learn the quirky, sometimes hilarious tricks Tang courtesans used to ensure their hairdos survived the long, languid hours of palace life. A maid demonstrates one of the simplest but most effective methods. A thin net woven from silk threads so fine they're nearly invisible in lamplight. She stretches it carefully over a towering bun, tucking the edges under the courtesan's hairline. The net holds every loop and twist in place like a soft cage, sturdy enough to withstand surprise gusts of spring wind, or the sudden head turns that come with whispered palace gossip. Nearby, a hairdresser shows you an odd contraption resembling a tiny crescent-shaped pillow. She slips it under a courtesan's hairline at the back of her neck, gently propping up the base of the bun so it doesn't sag under its own weight. It looks like the world's tiniest headdress, and you have to stifle a sleepy giggle at the sight of a beauty trick that's half hair support, half bedtime accessory. One courtesan leans forward to reveal a hidden set of pins running horizontally inside her hairdo like secret scaffolding, holding the shape together from within. She boasts that she once fell asleep sitting up during a banquet, and when she woke hours later, her hair hadn't shifted a single strand. The maids around her gasp in admiration, as if she's just recounted a daring victory. Historians still argue whether some of these quirky techniques were common knowledge or the jealously guarded secrets of a few ingenious courtesans and their loyal hairdressers. Either way, their quiet inventiveness shines through every creative solution, turning hairstyles into engineering marvels. A hairdresser shares a hushed story about a courtesan who wrapped delicate silk cords inside her braids, weaving them so the cords could be discreetly tightened throughout the evening. A quick, subtle tug would refresh the hair's tension, letting her keep her majestic silhouette without slipping away for a full restyle. You picture this sleepy game of hair maintenance playing out behind fans and flirty glances, and can't help but chuckle at the quiet cunning involved. The maids demonstrate yet another trick, a thin paste made from rice starch, brushed onto hair at the roots to add gentle stiffness. Once dried, it held strands firmly in place without leaving a powdery residue like a medieval version of hair gel, but infused with delicate floral scents. The soft perfume of jasmine and rose fills the room, lulling you into an even deeper drowsiness. A sleepy courtesan shares her personal method, lightly misting her hair with a mixture of boiled flax seeds and water, which dried to a nearly invisible, flexible film. She laughs softly as she recalls the time she applied too much, waking up with hair so rigid it squeaked when she turned her head. Another maid produces a collection of tiny wooden wedges, no bigger than a fingertip, used to wedge beneath heavy ornaments and hair loops. These clever props distribute the weight evenly, sparing courtesans' necks from hours of quiet torture. She slides one into a style before your eyes, the hair instantly lifting with an almost magical lightness, and you can't help but marvel at the quiet brilliance behind each sleepy swirl of midnight hair. You notice how courtesans keep silk pillows at hand small, firm and flat, designed to let them nap without crushing their careful hair. One maid pantomimes how to lay your cheek precisely on the pillow's edge, neck slightly tilted so hair floats freely above the bedding. Even in rest, every movement is a delicate dance, a balancing act between comfort and preservation. A quiet ripple of laughter drifts across the room as maids recall the time a sudden thunderstorm forced a mad dash through palace corridors. The only courtesans who emerged with perfect hair were those who'd mastered quick tucks and emergency hairnets hidden in their sleeves, a secret skill that instantly elevated them to legendary status among their peers. As sleepy giggles fade, you feel the warm camaraderie in this small room. The shared understanding that beauty is hard work, that the quiet brilliance behind each towering hairdo isn't just for show, but a testament to patience, ingenuity, and a gentle stubbornness to keep every strand in its rightful place. The lanterns burn low, shadows dancing across glistening hair as courtesans lean back in relaxed pride, knowing they're ready for any sudden gust of wind, unexpected naps, or impromptu imperial summons. You catch a final, sleepy smile from a hairdresser who pats a courtesan's head like a sculptor admiring her masterpiece, both knowing that thanks to these quirky tricks, this quiet crown of hair will survive until dawn. The soft rustle of silk guides you down another quiet corridor where whispers swirl about the imperial hair edicts, formal rules decreed by Temp's emperors themselves, quietly shaping what courtesans could or couldn't do with their midnight tresses. Tonight, you slip into a world where hair wasn't just personal expression. It was regulated, measured, and quietly policed by imperial power. A hairdresser shows you a thin bamboo scroll inked with tidy columns of characters detailing what lengths were permitted for each rank of woman at court. Courtesans, maids, and noble ladies each had boundaries they couldn't cross, no matter how patient their hairdressers or creative their ambitions. Violate the edict, and you risked losing favor or worse, being quietly barred from important palace events. Historians still argue whether these regulations were enforced daily or mostly trotted out during major festivals, but everyone agrees their mere existence shaped how every woman approached her style. Imagine planning each loop, twist, or braid with the emperor's measuring rod quietly in mind. Your hair quite literally constrained by politics. A sleepy maid confides that many courtesans tried clever tricks to push limits without open defiance, tucking extra lengths into hidden coils or adding subtle height through secret padding. You imagine the quiet thrill of stealing a few inches past what imperial rules allowed. Each discreet flourish a small, rebellious victory. The edicts also dictated what ornaments could be worn by different ranks. Only favored courtesans were permitted phoenix crowns or jade-tipped pins. Others had to settle for simpler wooden combs or modest silk flowers. You watch a courtesan's eyes glow with sleepy pride as her hairdresser slides a delicate silver pin into place, a quiet reward signaling she'd pleased the right eyes. One hairdresser recalls the case of an ambitious courtesan who dared to wear ornaments above her station, hoping to bluff her way into higher favor. The attempt backfired spectacularly when a rival exposed her transgression during a banquet, and the girl was quietly exiled from court, proof that even the smallest detail of hair could tip palace fortunes. Imperial edicts extended to seasonal changes, too. Each festival carried precise hair rules, with edicts prescribing styles to honor gods, ancestors, or the emperor himself. During the Qingming festival, courtesans had to weave fresh willow branches into their buns. In the Double Ninth festival, elaborate knots represented climbing to new heights. The quiet precision of these requirements was both stifling and strangely inspiring, challenge that pushed hairdressers to creative brilliance. You watch a senior courtesan's hairdresser recite an edict's line from memory, eyes half closed as she pins the final coil into a perfectly regulation-compliant shape. Her voice is soft and steady, like a sleepy mantra passed from one generation of stylists to the next. Each word a quiet thread binding them to centuries of tradition. Maids giggle softly as they remember how some hairdressers interpreted rules with playful literalness. One story tells of a girl who twisted her hair into a giant heart for the Lantern Festival, technically within the allowed height, but so flamboyant it caused hushed laughter throughout the banquet hall. No edict mentioned hearts, after all, and she slipped through the loophole with sleepy, triumphant grace. A hairdresser produces a slender, curved measuring stick used for official inspections, its edges polished from years of careful use. She slides it alongside a courtesan's bun, measuring the precise height before nodding in quiet approval. You marvel at the idea of a hairstyle being judged like a building project, every curve quietly scrutinized against imperial standards. Historians note that while some rulers loosened hair rules during their reigns, others grew stricter, seeing hairstyles as mirrors of palace discipline. One edict even forbade certain extravagant braids during periods of mourning, requiring women to wear their hair low and simple to reflect the empire's grief. Even in sadness, hair spoke volumes, every strand quietly proclaiming loyalty. The hairdressers share sleepy stories of times the palace fell into quiet panic when new edicts arrived, forcing late-night rushes to restyle everyone's hair before dawn. You picture frantic braiding under flickering lanterns, sleepy maids scurrying with fresh combs, and courtesans blinking blearily as pins clicked into place just in time for morning inspections. A gentle hush settles over the room as admire each other's freshly adjusted hair, knowing every loop and pin sits within precise limits set by powers far above them. Their sleepy smiles carry quiet relief, for tonight they've perfectly balanced personal beauty with imperial demands, their crowns of hair compliant and flawless. As the lanterns burn lower, you feel a quiet awe at the power these ancient rules held over something as intimate as a woman's hair. The edicts may seem quaint today, but in the Tang Dynasty, they were laws written in the gentle curve of every braid and the height of every buna, silent, powerful reminder of how beauty and authority can weave together in the most unexpected places. As the lanterns flicker softly overhead, you find yourself drawn to a gallery room where painted screens and silk scrolls immortalize the courtesan's hair in delicate brushstrokes and flowing calligraphy. Tonight, you slip into the world of Tang art and poetry, where hair wasn't just worn, but celebrated, captured forever in words and images that drift across centuries like a quiet, fragrant breeze. A maid unrolls a long silk scroll before you, the ink still vivid despite its age. You see a courtesan painted in profile, her hair arching skyward in a graceful curve that seems to echo the sweep of mountain peaks in the background. A tiny crane-shaped pin glints near the top of her bun, and fine lines capture every wave of her glossy hair with astonishing detail. You lean closer, half expecting the painted strands to ripple in the lantern light. Historians still argue whether these portraits were faithful depictions of real courtesans or idealized visions of beauty. Some believe painters exaggerated hair, heights, and ornaments to create images of dreamy perfection, the way modern filters smooth skin and brighten eyes. Others insist these works reflect true court fashion, offering rare windows into the quiet glamour of the Tang era. You drift along the gallery, eyes lingering on another painting where two courtesans face each other, hair coiled in mirrored spirals that resemble delicate shells. Between them, a small table holds a peeper and a bowl of peaches, symbols of gentle leisure and fleeting youth. The women's hair seems to tilt slightly toward each other, as if sharing a secret only their pins and braids understand. Nearby, a hairdresser points out poems etched into thin slips of bamboo, verses that read like sleepy lullabies praising hair's power to enchant. One poem whispers of hair dark as midnight ink, rising high to catch the jealous moonlight, its lines as soft and flowing as the strands it describes. You imagine these poems recited in hushed tones beside mirrors, words drifting like smoke. Over perfumed hair, a maid laughs quietly as she remembers a poem that likened a courtesan's hair too. Waves of black silk, fierce enough to drown 1,000 hearts. She wonders aloud if the poet ever tried sleeping in the same bed as such a towering hairdo, earning a ripple of sleepy giggles from courtesans and hairdressers alike. The gallery's oldest scroll depicts a famous beauty whose hair was said to sway like bamboo in the breeze, drawing sighs of admiration from poets and ministers alike. Tiny lines of calligraphy recount the legend, how one night her hair ornaments caught the reflection of the moon, sending silver light dancing across the palace walls like falling stars. The emperor, woken by the quiet glow, fell in love at that very moment, a sleepy tale that's lived on in gentle brushstrokes and whispered stories. You pause at a screen painted with a moonlit garden, where courtesans stroll beneath flowering plum trees, hairpins winking like fireflies. A poet's lines hover at the bottom, petals fall on braids like dreams upon slumber, and beauty drifts into dawn with each secret strand. You feel the hush of the room deepen, the words and images weaving together until you, too, become part of this sleepy, painted world. A hairdresser shows you a slender book of collected poems from Tang courtesans themselves. Quiet reflections on the burden and pride of elaborate hair. One poem sighs about the weight of jewels and the ache of holding a perfect posture. Another laughs gently about the secret joy of slipping pins loose after a long night, hair tumbling free like a midnight waterfall. The maids admire a series of tiny ivory plaques etched with miniature portraits of legendary hairstyles, swirling loops, towering buns, sweeping spirals, each rendered with breathtaking detail. These portable artworks traveled quietly among courtesans and hairdressers, shared like sleepy fashion magazines to inspire the next bold creation. As lantern light plays across the paintings and poems, you feel time blur the courtesans in these works seem to breathe, their hairpins glinting as if catching the same soft light falling over you. The air carries a faint scent of old ink and lacquer, a sleepy perfume that mingles with the lingering fragrance of hair oils. You hear a hairdresser's voice, low and soft, reciting an old poem as her hands mimic the twists described in the lines. Her fingers move like brushstrokes themselves, turning words into real shapes that will soon grace another courtesan's head. The sleepy magic of this quiet ritual, repeated night after night, links hair, art, and poetry into a single, serene masterpiece. As you lean against a carved pillar, eyelids heavy, you realize these paintings and poems were more than decoration. They were quiet records of lives lived between candlelight and moonlight, reflections of patience, power, and the gentle art of turning hair into a timeless, silent story. Your footsteps echo softly as you leave the gallery, wandering into a corridor that feels like the hush before dawn. Here, you sense the quiet truth. The once glorious hair fashions of Tang courtesans have drifted into the shadows of history, their intricate styles fading as dynasties rose and fell, leaving behind only sleepy echoes of the towering buns and shimmering pins that once ruled the palace halls. You pause by a crumbling stone carving half hidden in the moonlight. It shows a faint outline of a woman with swirling hair piled like a midnight storm, one of the last surviving images of the Tang's hair artistry. Her features are worn away, but the silhouette of her elaborate bun hints at a world that once revolved around the silent power of perfect hair. A hairdresser leans against a nearby pillar, sharing stories of how, after the Tang dynasty's decline, hairstyles slowly shifted toward more modest shapes. Elaborate towers gave way to simpler buns and braids. Towering ornaments were replaced by subtle pins. Some historians still argue whether changing court politics, evolving tastes, or the rise of new aesthetic ideals led to this quiet vanishing of Tang's grand hair traditions. She explains that new dynasties brought stricter Confucian values, which favored subdued, restrained styles, braids close to the head, smaller ornaments, and soft knots that whispered humility instead of declaring power. Tang's extravagant coils and dizzying height began to seem decadent, relics of a more carefree, indulgent age. You slip into a hushed courtyard where aging maids gather, reminiscing about stories passed down from grandmothers who once styled the last towering Tang buns. Their sleepy voices recall rumors of desperate courtesans trying to keep the old fashions alive, creating secret gatherings where hair was still worn high and ornaments sparkled like moonlit rivers. But as decades passed, even these private displays faded into quiet memories. A maid gently touches your arm, guiding you to a wooden chest filled with tarnished pins, faded silk flowers, and tiny combs cracked with age. These forgotten treasures, once the pride of Tang's beauty, now lie nestled in dusty linen. Each piece a quiet artifact of a world that slipped softly into the past. One hairdresser points out the last known poem celebrating the old hair fashions, a sleepy lament written in the first years of the Song dynasty, mourning how palace corridors now echoed without the rustle of heavy buns or the musical chime of dangling ornaments. You imagine the hush of these halls, emptier somehow without the slow, majestic sway of hair that once brushed against painted screens. The moon climbs higher, silvering the quiet ruins of palace walls where courtesans once posed with heads held. Tall shadows creep across broken tiles, blurring the line between past and present. You almost hear the whisper of phoenix crowns, the soft swish of silk nets holding impossible coils steady, and the sleepy sighs of hairdressers perfecting each twist. Nearby, a small pavilion stands empty, but the breeze carries a faint scent of jasmine and sandalwood, ghosts of the oils that once scented the midnight air as maids brushed endless layers of gleaming hair. The scent drifts over you like a lullaby, wrapping you in gentle melancholy as you realize how thoroughly these styles have slipped beyond living memory. Yet even in their vanishing, Tang hairstyles left ripples. Tiny elements survived in regional folk traditions, miniature braids woven into wedding hairdos, silk flowers tucked into festival buns, or small pins shaped like cranes echoing the great ornaments of the past. These subtle reminders kept the essence of Tang's hair artistry alive, hidden like sleepy embers in distant villages. A hairdresser sighs softly, pointing to a frayed scroll showing step-by-step diagrams of towering Tang buns, one of the last manuals before these skills vanished. The paper rustles in the breeze, fragile as a moth's wing, and you see faint ink lines outlining loops, cushions, and secret knots no one has needed in centuries. You lean against the cool stone of an ancient gate, eyelids heavy with the quiet knowledge that tonight you've walked through the shadows of a lost art, glimpsing the silent pride and careful work that built each strand into a soft fortress of beauty. The hush deepens, and you feel the soft weight of time pressing against your shoulders, reminding you that even the grandest fashions slip quietly into the dark, leaving behind only stories, a few broken ornaments, and sleepy memories drifting like moonlight across empty courtyards. Asterisk, let your breath settle, slow and soft, like drifting silk across a quiet room. Picture the final lanterns flickering in a moonlit palace, shadows slipping gently along carved screens, and the faint perfume of camellia and sandalwood lingering in the night air. The courtyards grow still, the rustle of robes and sleepy laughter, fading into comforting silence. Imagine your own head resting on a soft pillow, hair falling free, the weight of the day unspooling like long, dark strands released from careful braids. As you sink deeper into this gentle stillness, know that every twist and coil, every patient hand brushing midnight hair, carries you further into calm. The hush of Tang palaces wraps around you, a soft blanket of forgotten elegance and the soothing promise of restful dreams. Let your thoughts drift like silk in the night breeze, floating easily until they dissolve into quiet. Breathe slowly, let go completely, and let sleep come as peacefully as moonlight settling on a serene, ancient garden.